Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. Happy New Year. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Marco.
It's December 31st, and we are on New Year's Eve.
That's right. And since it's New Year's Eve, we're talking about New Year's resolutions.
Right. In many places, it's very common to make a promise for the new year, something that you will change.
A promise to yourself.
To yourself.
To change something.
And that's what our dialogue is about today. So why don't we take a look at our vocabulary preview for this lesson?
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, on vocabulary preview today, we only have one word.
Eating habits.
Eating habits.
Eating habits.
So what are eating habits?
The regular way you eat.
Right.
So if you eat healthy or if you eat lots of unhealthy food.
Or even maybe what time you eat, right? If you eat every day a certain time.
Yeah.
Eating habits.
Okay.
So we're ready to listen to our dialogue today. And it's going to be a little bit fast, but don't worry about it.
We'll come back and explain all of the key vocabulary after.
So, did I tell you about my New Year's resolution? I've decided to go on a diet.
And you're going to completely transform your eating habits, right?
Exactly. I'm gonna cut out all the junk I eat. No more chips, no more soda, no more fried food.
Uh-huh. I've heard this one before.
But this time, I'm going to stick to it. I really mean it. Trust me, Carol, I'm gonna be a new man in 1 year's time.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Thanks, honey. That was a great meal. I'm stuffed. Do we have any chips left?
So, Marco, do you think this guy will be successful in changing his eating habits?
Well, I guess he'll never change, but this gives us a great opportunity to look at some great vocabulary in this lesson in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Our first word on language takeaway is junk.
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 So, junk comes from junk food.
Exactly.
Unhealthy food.
Yep. Fries, chips.
Hamburgers.
Yeah.
All that junk.
All that junk.
Okay, our second word for language takeaway, transform.
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 Meaning?
To change.
Yep.
Change.
Mm-hmm. So this guy is going to transform his eating habits.
He's going to change his eating habits.
Yeah. Our third word is?
Stuffed.
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 I'm stuffed.
So we have some great examples on how we can use stuffed, and you'll get the meaning from it.
Example 1.
Other examples.
Come on, have one more piece of cake.
Oh, I can't. I'm stuffed.
Example 2.
Oh, I ate way too much. I'm stuffed.
Okay, I'm stuffed.
The feeling you get if you eat too much food.
Right, I'm full.
Yeah.
All right. So these are some great words that you can use talking about food.
And eating habits.
And eating habits. And now we can listen to our dialogue a second time. And this time, like always, it's going to be slow.
So, did I tell you about my New Year's resolution? I've decided to go on a diet.
And you're going to completely transform your eating habits, right?
Exactly. I'm going to cut out all that junk I eat. No more chips. No more soda. No more fried food.
Uh-huh. I've heard this one before.
But this time I'm going to stick to it. I really mean it. Trust me, Carol, I'm going to be a new man in 1 year's time.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Thanks, honey. That was a great meal. I'm stuffed. Do we have any chips left?
There's a lot of great language in this dialogue, isn't there?
Yeah, a lot of great language that we can take a look at with our Fluency Builder.
Fluency builder.
The first phrase we have for you is
Stick to it.
stick to it.
Stick to it.
Yes, we've got some examples of how this phrase is used. So let's listen.
Example 1.
Quitting smoking is so hard.
Stick to it. It's good for you.
Example 2.
I can't solve this math problem.
Stick to it. I'm sure you'll get it.
So stick to it, right?
Basically means keep doing it.
Right. Even though English learning can be hard,
You should stick to it.
stick to it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, let's look at our second phrase for Fluency Builder. I mean it.
Mean it.
Mean it. So this is a great way of saying
I'm serious.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean it.
I'm not joking.
I'm not joking, right?
Yeah. And our final phrase in Fluency Builder.
Preview.
Cut out.
Cut out.
Cut out.
Again, we've got some examples of this phrase as native speakers use it. Let's listen.
Example 1.
You have to cut out the salt from your diet. No more chips, no more french fries, no more popcorn.
Example 2.
It's time for me to focus on my work. I'm going to cut out everything else from my life.
Okay, so cut out means
To remove.
completely remove.
Take it away.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Okay, some great language, some great phrases in our dialogue today. So why don't we listen to it a third time and we'll come back in a little bit.
So, did I tell you about my New Year's resolution? I've decided to go on a diet.
And you're going to completely transform your eating habits, right?
Exactly. I'm gonna cut out all the junk I eat. No more chips, no more soda, no more fried food.
Uh-huh. I've heard this one before.
But this time, I'm going to stick to it. I really mean it. Trust me, Carol, I'm gonna be a new man in 1 year's time.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Thanks, honey. That was a great meal. I'm stuffed. Do we have any chips left?
Okay, so New Year's resolutions, a really common and popular thing in North America.
It's tradition to make a promise to yourself on New Year's and stick to it throughout the whole year.
Right. But the funny thing is that very few people actually stick to their New Year's resolution.
That's true.
The most common ones are, I'm going to quit smoking.
Yeah?
That never happens.
No?
I'm going to go on a diet.
Like this guy?
I'm going to quit drinking.
Uh-huh.
That almost never happens either. On New Year's Eve, you start
I mean,
drinking.
it's a bad time. Come on.
And another really common one is, I'm going to join a gym.
That's why gym membership sales are so high in January.
Right. Everyone joins a gym in January, but
Come
by
February?
Yeah, very few people in the gym.
Yeah. So, Marco, do you have a New Year's resolution for this year?
Yes, I have a New Year's resolution, and I resolve to continue bringing everyone some great lessons.
Oh, that's so good.
And I think I can stick to that one.
Yes. Well, I do hope that you do stick to that one, Marco.
We will. But today we're out of time, so please go to our website and leave all your questions and comments.
At EnglishPod.com.
And we'll see you there. But until then, it's
Dialogue.
Goodbye.
bye.
the second paragraph of the dialogue.
All right, let's dive in. We're talking New Year's resolutions today,
Oh.
focusing on health and lifestyle changes.
The best ones, right?
Well, we'll see. Our source material is this English learning podcast episode, and it uses like this dialogue about resolutions to teach vocabulary.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. We'll be exploring common themes, picking up some new phrases, and really getting into why these changes are so hard to stick with.
I think what's fascinating is that this dialogue, it seems simple on the surface, but actually reveals a lot about like the psychology of setting goals and why it's so hard to make them last.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in this dialogue, there's this guy telling his partner about his resolution to completely change his diet. He's done with junk food.
Oh, wow. Cold turkey.
Yeah, that's the idea at least. But his partner is, well, skeptical.
That's relatable, I
But
think.
yeah, for sure. We've all been there, made the big declaration, felt that initial motivation, and then...
And then life happens.
Exactly. And the podcast hosts pick up on this too, pointing out phrases that reveal a lot about, like, the guy's mindset. He keeps saying he's going to stick to it this time. He really means it.
But his partner's not totally convinced.
We'll see. At the end says it all, right? It's like that unspoken acknowledgement that resolutions often fade as the year goes on.
So true. And even the words they use, they're relevant to anyone trying to make a change. Junk food, that's such a powerful image.
It is, yeah. It instantly makes you think of like chips and soda and all that.
And transform. That word suggests a complete overhaul,
Which can be both exciting and terrifying.
Exactly. So this dialogue, it's a great starting point to understand not just the vocabulary, but the whole mindset and the struggles that come with these resolutions.
It's like we're getting a glimpse into that internal battle so many of us face.
Yeah, that determination mixed with the awareness that it might be really hard.
Totally. So let's take a step back and look at some common New Year's resolutions. This podcast mentions a few classics: quitting smoking, dieting, joining a gym, and giving up alcohol.
The usual suspects.
Right. And they even joke about how most people give up by February.
I mean, it's true. Have you ever made any of these resolutions?
Oh yeah, definitely. More than I'd like to admit.
It's a shared experience.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to the kinds of goals we set and how we approach them. These resolutions, they
Vocabulary
often
preview.
mean giving something up or making huge changes to habits we've had for years.
That's a really good point. It's not just about willpower. It's about understanding how habits work and how we can actually change them.
Exactly. So while this dialogue starts off kind of lighthearted, it opens up a much deeper discussion about changing our behavior and what it really takes to, make those resolutions last.
So why is it that these resolutions are so hard to keep? What makes people struggle?
Well, there are actually a bunch of factors involved. One is that we often set these huge goals, wanting a complete transformation overnight instead of focusing on gradual changes. And that's where understanding habits becomes really important.
Okay, I'm curious about this habit thing. Why are they so crucial for resolutions, and how do we actually change them?
Well, think of it this way. Our brains, they like to save energy. Habits, those things we do automatically without even thinking, they're super efficient.
Right.
They free up our minds for other stuff.
So that's why we, grab our phones the second we wake up or reach for a cookie without even realizing we're hungry.
Exactly. It's our brains on autopilot.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. But then when we make a resolution, we're trying to fight against that, right?
Yeah, we're trying to change those deeply ingrained patterns, replace them with something new. And our brains, well, they don't always like that.
No kidding.
Ugh.
That makes those phrases from the podcast, like stick to it and cut out, seem even more intense now.
It's like a battle against ourselves.
Totally. But you mentioned understanding habits. How does that actually help us?
It's empowering, actually. It's not just about willpower, though that's part of it. It's about recognizing the cues that trigger those bad habits and then consciously creating new routines to replace them.
Okay, I like where this is going. But how do we actually do that? I think a lot of people get stuck there.
Let's go back to the guy in the podcast who wants to transform his eating and cut out junk food. Instead of just trying to resist every temptation, he could start by figuring out what makes him crave junk food in the first place.
So is it stress, boredom,
Yeah.
certain time of day?
Exactly. And once he knows his triggers, then he can create new, healthier responses.
Okay, so what would that look like?
If it's stress, maybe he starts going for a walk when he feels that way or tries some relaxation techniques.
I see.
And if it's boredom, he could find a more engaging activity.
So it's about swapping the unhealthy habit for a healthier one that still meets the need.
Precisely. And don't forget the reward part of the habit loop. That's super important. He needs to find ways to make those new habits enjoyable.
So like maybe he discovers a healthy snack he loves, or maybe the reward is just feeling better after a walk.
Exactly. It's about linking those positive feelings to the new behavior. And this can be applied to any resolution, whether it's quitting smoking, exercising more, or anything really.
Wow, this is making so much more sense now. It's not just about forcing ourselves, it's about understanding why we do things and creating a plan that works for us.
Exactly. But even with the best plans, motivation can fade, right?
Yeah.
So how do we keep that going, especially when things get tough? Because, the guy in the dialogue is determined, but his partner seems less sure.
That's so true. So how do we keep that motivation burning? It's all about that drive, right? How do we really keep those resolutions going?
One of the most powerful things is connecting your resolution to something that really matters to you.
Oh, I see. Like something deeper than just wanting to fit into a smaller size.
Exactly. Instead of external pressures, think about why this change matters to you. How will it actually improve your life in a way that really resonates?
So it's got to be something you really care about.
Right. It has to come from within, not from wanting to impress other people. Maybe it's about having more energy to spend with your family. Maybe it's about feeling more confident. Or maybe it's about living by your values.
When it's that personal, it becomes more than just a goal on a list.
Yeah, it's like a commitment to something bigger. It's the difference between I want to lose weight and I want to feel energized so I can do all the things I love.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. But what about setting realistic goals? The guy in the podcast wanted to completely transform himself in a year.
That's a lot to take on. It's great to have big dreams, but it's usually more sustainable to focus on gradual progress instead of expecting a huge change overnight.
So break it down into smaller steps.
Exactly. And celebrate those wins along the way, no matter how small. Every time you hit a milestone, acknowledge it, even if it seems minor.
So give yourself a little reward.
Sure, or just take a moment to appreciate your effort.
Yeah.
It reinforces that positive connection with the new behavior and keeps you motivated. It's about training your brain to enjoy the journey, not just the destination.
I love that. But what about when things get tough? We all have setbacks.
Oh, absolutely. That's where self-compassion comes in. Don't beat yourself up over a slip-up.
Oh, that's so easy to do, though.
It is, but treat yourself with kindness like you would a friend. Setbacks happen. Learn from them and get back on track.
Vocabulary
Because
preview.
progress isn't always a straight line.
Exactly. And on those days when you're just not feeling it, start with something small, something you know you can do.
Like just 5 minutes of exercise.
Exactly. Sometimes just taking that first step is enough to get the ball rolling.
It's about breaking that inertia, trusting that the motivation will follow.
And remember, motivation is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That's encouraging. So keep practicing, celebrate those wins, and keep believing you can do it.
I love it.
This has been such a fascinating look at New Year's resolutions. We started with this simple dialogue and ended up exploring habits, motivation, even self-compassion.
And we learned some great vocabulary too.
Junk food, stick to it, cut out, transform. These are words we use all the time when talking about making changes.
They are, aren't they?
Before we go, I have to ask, what does it really mean to change? Is it about becoming a whole new person? Or is it more about growing and evolving?
That's a deep question. I think it's something we each have to figure out for ourselves. But what we've learned today is that change is a journey, not a destination.
That's beautifully put. It's about making choices, building those healthy habits, and being kind to ourselves along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of New Year's resolutions. We hope you've learned something new and feel inspired to go after your own goals.
Remember, change is always possible. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be your best self.
Until next time, keep diving deep.